Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll make a start. Welcome to councillors and to visitors, speakers. There is no fire drill planned tonight, I'm told. So if you hear an alarm, head for the door and then assemble in the car park outside. This is being broadcast live, webcast live on Vision. So by staying here, you do accept that situation. As regards speakers, if you are not happy with that, we'll try and sort of reduce the sound a bit. I don't think we can switch it off completely, but we'll do what we can. So the first item is apologies and substitutes, please.
Yes, apologies tonight from councillors Martin Burfoot, Mike Ratcliffe and Andrew Statham, and attending as substitutes are councillors Archer, Atkin and Raw.
Thank you. Item 2 is approval of minutes of previous meeting. Would somebody like to propose?
I'll move them, Chair.
Thank you. Second. All in favour? Thank you. Those are approved. Item 3 is public participation. We have 2 speakers tonight. The first is on item 6, Matlock Community Vision, land at Bakewell Road, Matlock. The speaker is Mr. Ken Parker, Matlock Community Vision, to comment on the progress of redevelopment proposals for the Bakewell Road site. Thank you, Mr. Parker. You have 3 minutes. We'll give you notice when you've got 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Chair. Matlock Community Vision was formed in 2014, so it's 5 years ago. We brought together representatives of local groups to focus on a community-led initiative to find a solution to the underused, rather neglected area of the town on the Bakewell Road side. We have had, as well as representation from local organisations, lots of voluntary help from local architects, property specialists and others with skills that are relevant to the ideas we've been pursuing. So 5 years on, just for us to keep going, I think is quite an indication of our keenness for something to happen on this side. And we believe that there is real scope for public and private initiatives to be brought together to create something quite special here. We support the proposals in this report, but we ask the councillors to keep in mind a bigger, more ambitious area of the town, not just Market Hall, which this report focuses on. There's much more that could be done at that area of the town. Successful towns are not just shopping centres. They bring residents together and visitors together to spend time and money throughout the day and even into the evening. And Matlock's a bit lacking in its evening activities, really. The consultants' report, which we commissioned with District Council funding, took our ideas and showed how different uses could be clustered more tightly together, creating a synergy in which one use supports another, creating a buzz which draws people in. So it's not just the direct economic activity which is important, the cinema side for example, but it's also creating community assets which bring people into the town and spend money. One point which we explored with the meeting with your officers last week was the considerable interest there is in this site from many local theatre and musical groups who at the moment lack performance space and associated provision in the town. They have to go outside Matlock to often inadequate facilities. And we believe that that idea, which could make some use of the vacated bus station and could work alongside the potential cinema use which is referred to in the report, and we think that might be raised within recommendation 3. So, we're very pleased to be working with the council, and we're very pleased to continue working with that council, if that's appropriate, to create something special, benefiting visitors and residents alike, creating social, economic and environmental benefits for the town. So we support the proposals in the report. We know that finding the resources to implement it's not going to be straightforward, but the old motto, where there's a will, there's a way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, Mr. Parker. The next speaker is Mr. Peter Dobbs, Ashbourne resident, to speak about the Ashbourne Memorial Park Transect. That's for item 7, which is the Memorial Bench donation policy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for
Just to remind you again, you have 3 minutes. Okay.
Thank you. Hopefully you've had a chance to see on the members' portal the photographs. If you haven't seen them, Please do have a look, possibly now, but that makes much more sense than what I'm about to say. Those that are long-serving councillors will know that the repairing the bandstand in Ashbourne Memorial Park has been on the council's to-do list for several years, but nothing has happened. The council have now decided that it is unsafe and have surrounded it with fencing. And many of us have seen this happen before in the park in Ashbourne, and it's been a prelude to demolition. And if you look on page 2 of those photos, you can see what we've already lost from this park. What I simply ask is this: could the council tell the people of Ashbourne what their plan is for the bandstand? It seems only right that we should be told, and I do not believe that to have a plan at some undefined point in the future would count. Secondly, if possible, could that plan be to restore it? It is the last remaining structure of those that once graced the park. Surrounded as it is now with fencing, it disgraces the park. And finally, could the decision be communicated in a press release to our local paper, giving details of suitable contacts for comment? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Next item, number 4, interest. Do any councillors have any interest in any items on the agenda which they wish to declare? No? Thank you. Item 5, any questions? Pursuant to the rule of procedure number 15. No? No questions, thank you. Item 6, Matlock Community Vision, land at Maple Road. Oh, sorry, Steve.
Chair, thank you very much, and thanks also to Ken Clark for his comments earlier. This is the third report in about 12 months that we've brought on this topic to members. However, I do know for many members that this will be the first report that they will have heard on it. So I'll perhaps do a bit of a recap on some areas. The first thing I want to do, though, is to thank Matlock Community Vision, whose steering group, which Ken is one member, continues to work very closely with the District Council. They support us and we support them with regard to developing the Bakewell Road site, and I'm very pleased that we continue to have a very good working relationship with Matlock Community Vision, so thanks for coming along, Ken. So, by way of background, the site at Bakewell Road in Matlock is the only town centre redevelopment site that's mentioned in our economic plan for the District Council. That's partly because it is, as Ken said, an underused site, but also because it's the only site where the District Council is actually the freehold landowner. So it actually gives us an ability to actually make a difference. However, we've been looking at this site for many years, and viability has always been a key problem. The financial viability of doing something that stacks up financial terms. Neither the community or the council nor any commercial body has got the ability to pour money continually into something that doesn't watch its face financially. So that's something that's very much at the front of our minds. The District Council, as many members will recall, did fund Matlock Community Vision to conduct a feasibility study for the former bus station and Market Hall site, and their consultants, Aspen Verde, carried that out a few years ago, and they did a very, very good job. Some of the key points from that study is in paragraphs 1.2 and 1.3 of your report. And perhaps in summary, it says that there is an apparent demand for a small cinema in Matlock, and also demand for the community space, as Ken mentioned, and that could range from smaller meeting rooms up to the aspirations for a larger rehearsal space even. But the important thing from a financial point of view that Matlock Community Vision study said was that In terms of running costs alone, let alone the cost of redeveloping the bus station and Market Hall into a decent property, in terms of those costs, community use did not step up financially. It wasn't viable. And as a district council, we had a report done by a different consultant who said the same thing. But what both reports did say is that a small cinema supported by food and beverage uses, potentially with a small element of community use as well, could be financially viable in day-to-day running cost terms. So in terms of the running costs, that could work. But even then, the cost of refitting and refurbishing what's a very tired structure into something more useful and more appealing, that will take a long time to recover. So that was the financial position that those studies put us in. There'd be a need for upfront capital investment to transform an ageing structure into something that's appealing and ready for fitting out as a cinema. But when a cinema with some food and beverage uses and potentially a small amount of community space as well was there, it could potentially wash its face financially on a day-to-day running basis. So that left us with more work to do, really. And at the February meeting of this committee, members decided to put in an application to the government's Future High Streets Fund, which was funding that was available to fund that sort of extra work. Pretty much every local authority in the country bid to that fund. Over 300 did, only 50 were successful. We weren't, unfortunately, one of them. So we didn't get any money through the Future High Streets Fund, unfortunately. But we have been exploring other options in the meantime. And the interest from small cinema operators is something that we have taken forward. As well as doing that, however, it's also important that we've discussed it with other stakeholders who are involved in the site as well. One of those is the leaseholder of the building, a company called London Metric, and they lease the shop to Marks and Spencer's next door to it. We've spoken to both of them, and they are comfortable in principle with the idea of a small cinema and food and beverage units next to their shop. But what's absolutely critical to them is retaining the existing car parking provision. They couldn't entertain losing any of the car parking, so that's something that's very critical from the existing retailers' points of view. The bus route through the site, those of you who are familiar with it are very much aware that there is a bus route running through this site. That's a key issue for us going forward. And we have been discussing that with Derbyshire County Council as the Highways Authority. They insist still that a bus route through the site must remain. And they acknowledge that sterilises anything beyond the site we're talking about, but that's their firm position. However, they have made a small adjustment to their position in that they do accept that the bus bays that are currently there could be potentially moved, and if they were, that could make the site a little bit more flexible. So that's something to work on further. My colleague Giles Stan has been negotiating with the County Council on that and has managed to move Mohammed very slightly in that regard, so I think that's very positive. One of the most important meetings that we've had so far has been with the existing licensees, the stallholders in the Market Hall. The Chief Executive and my colleague Giles met with them in the last few weeks, and that was a very open, cordial and positive meeting. It was very early stage. It was a getting to know you meeting, saying this is where we're at, what are your views, and so there were no conclusions other than to keep the dialogue open, to keep speaking and to maintain that and keep everyone informed as we go along. So Chairman, the next step we're at from all of that is that we're now at a position where we want to carry out some further detailed feasibility work, and that's what I'm recommending to you tonight. The key, I must emphasise, to any feasibility work though is that ensuring that the finances stack up, that any scheme that we come up with has to be financially viable. but that's something that requires more detailed work than we've been able to carry out so far. So once that's been done, Chairman, we propose to come back to members when that feasibility study is complete, and at that point we've sought out a programme of work to recommend to you, put forward what resources might be needed to make it happen, and also what further consultation and engagement with stakeholders, including the market traders but also the general public of Matlock, that we would then be carrying out. So the proposal is to carry out that future work and then come back to you with more detailed plans at that point. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Councillor Purdy.
Well, I've got no questions, Chair. Unless members have got any questions, I'm happy to wait until questions. But I do want to move it, and I want to talk about what the Matlock vision does. So I'll defer for questions, if you will.
Councillor O'Brien.
Yes, Chair. I have one question relating to recommendation 2. This is the recommendation to say further feasibility work, yet we're given no indication of what the cost of that feasibility work is, nor how it will be procured. It's a strange recommendation to approve something without having any idea of what it's going to cost. So could you tell us what this cost would be, please?
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor O'Brien is making a good point. To be more precise, I think what we're proposing to carry out at this stage is work investigating what more detailed work would then be involved afterwards. So we're not asking for any finance at the moment. We're working up a scheme with our existing commercial advisor, and that's a cost that the council has already met. We do have a commercial advisor who is a specialist in this sort of thing, so they would help us do that more detailed feasibility work to scope further work. But at that point, we would be coming back at the next meeting to say these are our next steps and these are resources that we then require.
Councillor Borley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about the unsuccessful bid. We say there's going to be another round next year, in the new year. Can you tell me, were there any other bids of a similar nature, and will we be bidding again?
Well, Councillor Borley, this morning, in fact, we did receive notification from the government, from the officials at the Ministry of, whatever they call it at the moment, whose job was to look after this, saying they are now offering to do an analysis of all the bids, including the ones that were successful and the ones that weren't, and then come back to us with some suggestions as to what might be helpful for future bids. So that is something that we're mindful of, and so is the Ministry.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask a question in relation to the buses? Obviously, living here, you see that the buses are regularly going through there, but once you take away the use of the bays, what is the necessity for the buses to go through that area? If they're in agreement to move the bays, why do the buses still have to travel through that area when we've got a bus station on the other side and a bus outside Marks and Spencer's? Thank you.
Chairman, that's a question that we've been asking for many years. The answer that's come back to us, and I do see the point that the County Council make on behalf of the bus operators, is that for the bus operators, particularly the operators of the bus to Chesterfield, the direction they come in order to be able to turn and then go back to Chesterfield, that provides a short route for them to go via the Marks and Spencer's site, which is a key site where people want to go, to actually turn around and go back out would then, if it wasn't being able to go through there, they'd have to have a long journey all the way around the Derwent Way, which would be much longer for them, which would add a couple of minutes to their journey. So from the bus company's point of view, having that shorter route is far preferable. But what the County Council have said, as I say, is that the number of bus bays that Council pays go to.
I'd like to move it, Chairman, because I was involved when Ken came 5 years ago. It seems longer than that, actually. I remember the sort of montages next door and the ideas for Lakeville Road and your vision, which is to be commended. And this is a working partnership between the community and this authority. And I'm glad to say that you're still willing, because these things do take time. I recall we handed over the pavilion to the Safe the Path group some years ago, and we hoped to see a cultural centre there, but unfortunately they were not successful with the HLF bid, and so they're trickling along, if I can put it that way at the moment. So you do have to be resilient in this. Steve's right, this has got to be viable. We've gone through the scenario, remember, with Tesco, with all that kind of argument, with the bus station and so forth. And I know there were grand plans to try and develop on the riverside and put another footbridge across to the riverside to go away. Councillor Wayne, there's a long-standing problem with the bus company. When we first put the bus station in, they won't go there. They insisted on going through the route at the moment. So there seems to be some intransigence there, which adds to this mix. So I want to move the recommendation, Chair, and commend Matlock Vision for keeping at it, and we'll work along with you as long as we can.
Councillor.
I'm happy to second the motion. I'd like to thank Mr Parker for coming along and all the hard work from Matlock Community Vision and Steve Cates and the rest of our officers for putting together this future feasibility plan, and I would wish you every success.
Councillor Pauly.
Right, Chair, I've got another question. Is it okay to ask?
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm just thinking things through and saying that they're not going to change their minds about coming out round that way, bus companies. Is there any chance in the future that we could use the car park that is behind Wilco's as a bus turning point and put more parking spaces in the new scheme down where the current bus station is, so that we extend parking to down there?
Chairman, Councillor Pauly has come up with an interesting suggestion, and when we do consult, we'll be welcoming all sorts of suggestions. I think from my point of view, I think all I'm concentrating here is really the art of the possible, what we can do at the moment with what's available to us, and that is a relatively small amount of land, which is constrained, but it is the land that's in the district council's ownership. It's where we can with it's what we are in a position to do something with. There's a lot more, as Councillor Purdy and indeed Ken Parker have talked about many times in the past, there's a lot more we could do with Matlock. But this is what we hope we're actually able to do in the short term. Once that's done, I think then hopefully we'll have to send a signal to the community, to landowners, to developers, and indeed bus companies that more could be done in future. But let's get something done first, and then see where we can go from there.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. As Steve said, I'm one of these people who have watched the progress of this project from afar over the past 10 or 15 years, and it's interesting now to be invited to help move it forward. The buses in paragraph 3.7, I think it's absolutely unacceptable that the full development potential of both Matlock and the district's regeneration projects is being held to ransom apparently by a small number of Derbyshire County Council officers. I just think that that's not the way that we seek to support the community's ambition. So I would like to move an amendment to the effect that urgent discussions at the highest level are entered into with Derbyshire County Council on the Highway Authority and the bus operators in order to enable the full redevelopment potential of the council's assets to be realised. The second point I'd like to make is perhaps a more general point. It echoes something which Mr. Parker said. When I read this report, I felt rather underwhelmed by what it was proposing. Because as I said just now, here we have probably the major asset that the district council has within the entire district to bring about a major regeneration proposal. And it seems to be gone about in rather a piecemeal basis. Normally, the way that we'd look to achieve the aspirations that which the community and the council has would be to define what those aspirations are, look to see what the district council can bring to the table in terms of its assets, and then see what the market would offer to us in order to realise those aspirations and what it would expect from us in return from our assets. So I would simply say at this stage, I hope that that is not to be forgotten. We don't get too embroiled in what is an important but still a relatively minor aspect of the total project. That we don't run the risk of progressing a small part of the project, which could make it more difficult to realise the full potential of the entire site.
Chairman, if I may, just briefly, just to say, those discussions with the county council are ongoing. They are well, certainly at the moment at senior officer level, as well as with the more professional officers, if you like, at the county council. But as I say, we have made a little bit of headway with them. If I'd been saying this a year or so ago, I would have even been confident on that. So we've got a chink there, and I think it's positive that that chink has opened up. And let's keep pushing away at that. With regard to the overall redevelopment of Matlock and the wider site, Councillor O'Brien makes an excellent point. It would have been wonderful to have redeveloped a wider site and the whole site, and that is indeed what this council tried to do some 5 or 6 years ago. For various reasons, one of which being the proposals that did come forward from the market at the time not being adequate, that wasn't able to be progressed. The market's now in a very different position with regard to retail, but what there is an acknowledgement that in order to revitalise high streets for the future, retail on its own isn't the answer, and mixed development with an element of leisure which brings people into the town and brings them in the evenings, gives them a reason for coming to town as well as the shops, and we believe very much that cinema might be a means of doing that, is perhaps a catalyst for the way forward. So rather than seeing this as something that's haphazard, we see this as something that's a catalyst for future regeneration in and around this site as a start, which will hopefully be the start of something bigger. But it is at the moment the art of the possible. We want to do something we can do rather than have aspirations for something that we'd love to do but can't.
Thank you. We have no more speakers. The recommendations have been moved as seconded.
Councillor O'Brien, can I just check the wording of your amendment?
It was that urgent discussions at the highest level are entered into with Derbyshire County Council and the bus operators in order to enable the full redevelopment potential of the council's assets to be realised.
Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Yeah. So, all those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. 5. Against? So the amendment has failed. So we're back to the original one. It has been moved and seconded. All in favour, please raise. Against? Abstentions?
Thank you. Next item is item 7, Memorial Bench Donation Policy. Ash, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report outlines the proposed new memorial bench policy. And although we already have an approach that has been established over a number of years, this policy seeks to formalise that approach and also to meet the requirements that are set out in the Corporate Signage Report, which was presented to the Governance and Resource Committee in June 2017 and is noted in this report on 1.1. Currently, we have a number of memorial benches in our burial grounds in memory of those interred, and also in some of our parks and open spaces where families have fond memories. The proposal in this report is that we expand the opportunities for dedicated memory with either sole or multiple dedications on benches that are not necessarily memorial benches across the district. The proposal also looks to add some consistency in the type of bench, the level of maintenance and the costs associated to providing memorial benches and dedications. We're happy to take any questions, Chair.
Councillor Froggatt.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question, but I would like to move this. It's a solid report, and I can't see that there are any problems with it whatsoever.
Councillor Archer.
Could I just ask a question related back to what Mr. Dodd said at the start of the meeting about the Ashbourne Memorial Park bandstand, and first of all, whether or not that would be included? Is that structure included in this policy? If not, should we look at including structure such as that in a policy like that? Because the policy states in point 3 that council will treat these benches every 4 to 5 years, which if that had happened, the bandstand would not have been in the state it's currently settled into. And point 10 also mentions the council will consider if a replacement is needed or not. And again, in terms of the bandstand and referred to it like Mr. Dodd at the start, and I presume that's the position we're now in terms of being fenced off, that we are now considering whether a replacement is needed or not, or whether or not it can be rejuvenated. So just in relation to that point of the bandstand, just clarify those points, please.
Chair, this report relates solely to the memorial bench policy, not other memorials within the district.
Councillor Wade.
Yeah, I've read the report, and it seems that the costing seems quite consistent with other local authorities. I'd just like to ask a question in relation to the composition of the benches. I presume they are wood. I'd just like clarification that they are being purchased from ethical and environmentally sustainable suppliers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The majority of the benches that we use at the moment are in the main a wood bench. There has been a proposal as part of this to review the type of bench that we use, but then be consistent across the district with that. That is something that I'm going to ask the team to consider as part of this, but this report is the principle of the policy, but we'll certainly take those points on board.
Councillor Wakeman.
I'd like to second it, please.
Councillor Ball.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, firstly, I'd just like to say that I realise that this is all about the bench policy, and I was quite shocked to the fact that Mr. Dodds was speaking on the recreation ground and the memorial garden as regards the bandstand, and it really, in a sense, it isn't to do with this policy. But I would just like to make it clear that I'm all for this policy, and I think for the memorial gardens themselves, I'd like to see more benches around for people to be sitting in if there really is memorial benches. Plus, the fact is that myself and other members of Ashbourne Ward did put the issue about the bandstand. It hasn't been forgotten. I know there are lots of other things that are harassing, but we have had lots of other issues that the council have had to sort out at the moment. But I can assure Mr. Dobbs
that myself and the other members of Ashbourne will be having meetings with Ash to determine where we go forward with other aspects of the Memorial Garden, being the bandstand and any other issues. Thank you.
We have no other speakers. It has been moved and seconded.
Excuse me, I did put my hand up, you didn't see me.
Yes. Councillor Pauling.
Yeah. It's just a question about these benches with several plaques on. Can you tell me, have we got anything like that at the moment going? There might be a supplementary after that.
Yeah, I'm not aware that we have multiple dedications at the moment, but we do have a significant number of people on waiting lists, and the idea of the policy is to try and provide opportunities for people to have a dedication on non-memorial benches at the moment to help people, in areas where there's fond family memories, to have dedication in there, and that might be more than just one sole dedication. There are opportunities for a number. I think that the issue that we've got is that you've got some areas that are, in particular, that are oversubscribed with benches, but you've got long waiting lists, and the examples that were given in the report are Bakewell and Monsell Head. So it's striking a balance between the need and the right number of benches.
Chair, is it okay if I just come back?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. It just struck me when I read it. I can't imagine anybody wanting to have a bench where it's already got 3 other people's names on it. It just seemed to be a bit odd. And I wondered if you'd actually done any research into if people would want that. People put it in as a policy. I just wondered if we've got anything to back up why we're putting it in.
Chair, if I may, the officer that was responsible for undertaking this work spoke with a number of other local authorities who do have this option, and it is going to be very clear from the outset you have an opportunity to have sole dedication, or there will be benches that are allocated for multiple dedications, so it will be up front. It won't be a case of somebody having a sole dedication and later on another one will be added to that. It would be essentially sold as a multiple dedication bench, so it's clear and people are making a conscious decision for that donation.
We have no more speakers. Has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Next item is item 8, voluntary right to buy scheme. Rob.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for presenting a rather, for a housing geek, a really interesting paper, but for everybody else it might not be so. Essentially, it goes back to the 2015 manifesto when the government decided to extend the right to buy to housing associations in a voluntary scheme. That took the housing sector by surprise, I think, and in response, in order to stop it becoming a mandatory scheme, the housing association sector, led by the National Housing Federation, the trade body for housing associations, devised a voluntary scheme that they put to ministers, and that was adopted rather than writing into legislation. So the scheme before you had a first pilot with 6 housing associations across the country. That was reviewed and changed for the East Midlands and West Midlands of England. So there's been some involvement of the scheme over time. The key points to the recommendation are set out there. I won't go through to them, but you can see the protections built in terms of how the scheme, if adopted, will be managed within the Dales. And it's also worth pointing out, I think, in paragraph 2.2, that only 8 expressions of interest have been received by platform. And the latest update from them to me this week suggests that only one of those will progress to an actual potential sale. So, putting into context, I'm sure for some might be quite a big issue. Actually, in round terms, only relates to one property at present. That doesn't mean to say that in the future, a new government or a new administration may change the rules, but we can only talk about really what was in front of us today. The terms of the deal set out within the papers show platforms proposals in terms of delivering this scheme across all the councils they work with. That's over 100 councils across their operating area. And their input into the district and all those other councils is vital. You can see in paragraph 1.33 the size of the organisation, how much money they bring and develop in terms of delivering affordable housing. And they are keen, I think, to offer this opportunity to residents. Our recommendation talks about those just in the Ashbourne wards and the Matlock wards, where it's easier to re-provide new housing, so we're not contemplating anywhere outside of those areas, because re-providing housing in the rural parts is quite difficult. And in any case, the restrictions relating to the disposal of affordable housing in rural areas is quite complex given the planning restrictions that apply. So there's no, in my view at the moment, no potential risk of this being extended to more sensitive parts of the district. I think that's really all I wanted to say in terms of the report. I'm happy to take questions from that.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Councillor Ackett.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, very interesting that this has now come on to committee. I'm quite glad that there will be one form of replacement, and as such I will move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Councillor Raw.
I just wanted to say I'm really saddened to see a policy today when on the BBC News this morning there was a notice about children sleeping in containers because of homeless families, and we've got a proposal on the table that reduces housing stock. And yes, there is a suggestion for replacement, but my question is, what will happen to families waiting to be in replacement housing that are on the waiting list for the 3 years it will take to rebuild? What do we mean by near to possible? Will it be suitable accommodation? Will it be local to local communities? Do we have to do this? Is this a policy that by law we have to implement, or is it something that we've decided to do, or is that a real question tonight? Do we want to increase the number of people that can buy social housing? I, for one, don't.
Well, I think in terms of do we have to do it, the deal that the housing sector struck with government is a big issue. The government spent an awful lot of money with housing associations, helping them build new stock across the country. And you can see from the example provided in terms of platforms investment, it is huge, and the number of new homes they're building here and every other authority is significant. So they wouldn't enter lightly into a programme that saw them lose lots of stock that they'd taken years to build up. And the one replacement is very different to the original right to buy, which didn't allow that to happen. So last year this district council helped enable 113 new affordable homes, and this year will exceed about 55, I believe, given the programme we know at the moment. So yes, there will be people in temporary accommodation looking for somewhere to live, but the loss of one home in Matlock, which will then, or Ashbourne, which then might be provided through a different scheme. In terms of balance, the honest view is that that's acceptable, because we do lots of other things that help prevent people becoming homeless in the first place, and also the turnover of existing stock. The provision of brand new homes is something we're very good at. So, on balance, losing one home potentially is not such a big deal.
Councillor Pawley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I read somewhere, I'm not sure if it's in here or other paperwork I've been reading, that this portability issue means that the companies like Platform can keep the house that the person is currently living in and offer them something that's they can't let. Can you tell me if any of these 7 out of the 8 people who initially decided that they would like to buy could not get the house they're currently or flat they're currently living in, and were offered something different that they didn't want because it was in
a less prosperous area.
At the moment, as far as we are aware, that hasn't been the issue that's put people off from progressing. It's more to do with the legal agreements around the houses that the currently live in that restricts disposal.
Councillor Swindle.
Thank you, Chair. Always a sort of divisive issue, this one. And I see it from both angles. I want to make sure that we've got good quality, affordable housing for people when they need it. But also, I don't want to see people who want to get on housing and deprive that opportunity as well, which is something that I've been privileged to have. One of the things that does concern me, Robert, is this one-for-one replacement. Everyone's quick to say, oh yes, that's wonderful. And I've got to be careful asking for an officer's opinion on something. But do you really think that that is something that will continue to happen as this policy unfolds? The reason I say it is we're not expecting, as a house is sold, suddenly for someone to go and find a space for a house and start laying the foundations and build it. We've got to wait for a developer to come along and propose a size of, say, for 5 or 6 houses, a minimum, to make it viable for them to do so. So I'm not convinced that the one-for-one will continue, will always happen. You can see what I'm saying, it's not that simple to say, oh, this is wonderful, and it will. And also, can you tell me, one-for-one replacement, are we talking like-for-like replacements as well? So 3-bed houses sold, are we expecting a 3-bed to come in place of that as well? I'm just sort of asking for your opinion if that's okay, to sort of think, do you think this is realistic?
There's some questions, yeah. I think how the report talks about how we could re-provide housing. So it could be, for example, buying an empty property, because every member in this room, I'm sure, has got an empty property in their parish, which is causing a headache for them. And this could be, it's difficult to get money to do empty property work. And this could be a shortcut to that, in that you don't need planning consent, and you can work with the housing association, the housing team would identify a particular empty property that's a problem, and would ask also to make an offer, or even buy one that's just on the market. So that's a very quick route. You can get permission, etc. So that would be, a shortcut to achieving one replacement. I think, without getting into too much detail about how housing associations develop and fund affordable housing delivery, they use an awful lot of different forms of income, if you like. So government grant is one, housing grant from the council is another. They'll use funding when somebody buys a bit more of their shared ownership property. That receipt goes into the housing association. And quite often in this authority, where it's expensive to build, they'll put that money together and put it into one of our schemes to make it viable. So it's a bit difficult to pull all that apart and say how that one particular property is financed. But I certainly believe, given our relationship with Waterloo and the other associations, that we would be able to point you to a property that said that was the one that was replaced.
Yeah.
The type of property, that's an interesting question, because the housing need in that locality where we're replacing might not be for a 3-bed. It might be for a 2-bedroom bungalow, which is maybe arguably more attractive than a 3-bedroom house. So it would depend on the needs in that community at that time.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I agree entirely with what Councillor Raw says, and I also echo a lot of what Councillor Swindell said. But while we have the scheme, I think it's really important that we collectively try to make it work, whatever its faults may be. So I've got 2 questions. It may seem a little bit superfluous, given what Rob said about the actual scale of the project at the moment, but I'll ask them anyway. First, I'd like to know whether there is actually a draft agreement with Platform, and if so, have Platform committed to acquiring existing property on the open market, apart from at Hurst Farm. And I ask that question because traditionally
unfortunately, RSLs don't like acquiring individual properties. They prefer to use their funding to either new build or buy properties in the group. So it would be a departure from usual policy for them to acquire an individual property. The second question is whether the platform actually have a pipeline of new build schemes which would enable them to utilise the capital received within the 3-year period which they're required to spend it.
I think the first point came up when I discussed the report with legal. So they advised we would need a written agreement with platform. We have other agreements with them already, so we would put the terms of an agreement into writing with them that would have to be agreed, but I'm sure legal would help with that. In terms of the commitment to purchasing, I agree some housing associations aren't that keen on it, but others do it quite readily to buy existing stock to help their numbers quite quickly when there's lots of government grant around. We're in a period at the moment where there is a fair amount of government grant, and we have to have discussions with the platform about buying existing homes on Hurst Farm and other areas to support council initiatives. So I don't foresee a problem in securing properties with their support. In terms of the pipeline, yes, all the associations we're working with, not just platform, have a forward pipeline of delivery. Some of it's a bit vague because of some of it's, for example, for Derbyshire. Others will be for more specific locations. And you've seen some good examples in Market recently in Ashbourne where Old Derby Road, for example, in Ashbourne, they're buying the 40-odd market homes on that site to deliver as affordable. So they are committed to the area, and they do have a good pipeline that we're working with all the time. The Royal Housing Aid brought a report to committee, I think last time, showed the programme at present, so members can check back on that. There is a recent report showing the pipeline.
Yes, okay.
I've got something around there. Can I just be absolutely clear then? Your agreement, which you seek to achieve, that will commit platform to acquire empty property on the open market on an individual basis in Ashbourne.
Well, that is one potential. It has to be an additional property to anything they've already got funding for. So it could be in the Ashbourne wards or the Matlock wards from where that sale came from originally. Equally, it could be a new development where they've maybe got funding for 30 units, and instead we get 31. That's the additionality we need to see when it comes to new affordable housing scheme.
Councillor Morley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, and thank you to Councillor Swindell for the insightful questioning. I think Rob got used to be a bit hard on himself calling him geek. I think it's very insightful and detailed report, so I'd like to second it, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Chair. I think I hope members can support this, because what we're doing is supporting our housing officer and our housing team. Because the reason this council has got a really excellent reputation on providing affordable homes is the fact that there's an excellent relationship between these housing associations and our housing team. And I see Councillor Swindell nodding his head. We have got an excellent reputation, and ask any other authority. I just want to make that point. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wayne.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask for some clarification in relation to bungalows, because I visit quite a few old people and families in bungalows as well. Are we not being rather exclusionary by prohibiting them from buying their own properties? You just said bungalows, and I can understand flats because of subletting and landlords, etc. But I have a bit of a problem with the bungalow situation, that more vulnerable people, maybe disabled people, will be in bungalows, and we're depriving them of the opportunity to buy their own property. Can you comment on that, please?
Yes, one of the things in my life is actually trying to build more bungalows for our elderly population, and to to lose them from the stock and not necessarily be able to guarantee we re-provide a bungalow is a challenge. So we are, every scheme we're building at the moment, we want to see bungalow provision in that. But typically, older persons accommodation as bungalow or a sheltered housing scheme, etc., is not included in granted by schemes, and so we're mirroring that with this purpose.
Thank you, Rob. No other speakers. It has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Abstain? Thank you. The next and final item is item 9, the organic contract.
Thank you, Chair. For the benefit of new members, I just want to be clear that this report or this contract is not part of the waste recycling collection contract that we're currently out to market. However, it is closely linked and key to the overall package of waste and recycling collections across the district. The purpose of this report, however, is to provide an update to members on the procurement of the contract for the disposal and processing of organic waste, or garden waste and food waste. Currently, and since 2010, we've been in a joint contract with Derby City Council in South Derbyshire. This contract is due to end in June 2020. That contract currently means that we take our organic waste to Vital Earth in Ashbourne, as noted within the report. With the end of the contract in mind, we did have an opportunity to take part in another joint contract with those parties, but following a discussion with them and amongst ourselves on the project team, we've opted to go on our own. And we appreciate that the risk of this could have been an increased cost per tonne, with the quick gate fees going into a new disposal site. However, one of the key concerns that we had was we are currently working towards a new waste and recycling contract for collections, and the discussions suggested that the timeline that the other parties were working to would not meet our timelines, and therefore we needed to have something that fits in with the overall contract. We're also aware that there are a number of other disposal sites that are possibly closer to Derby City than we would have wanted, in the sense of if we ended up with a contract that meant that became our disposal side, there would be an increased cost in terms of mileage rates from the incoming contractor. And there would also be the impact, the environmental impact of refuse collection vehicles travelling from wherever in our district towards Derby City Centre. This contract went out onto the open market in May, and we drew up a specification with support of Eunomia, who are the council's appointed consultants who are helping us with the waste and recycling contract. And in July, we awarded that contract to Vital Earth. The contract itself is for a period of 2 years, with the option, which is actually 26 months, but the option of an extension for a further 2 years. And the reason that we structured it that way is because we are aware that other disposal sites are coming online, and in 2 years' time the picture might be a little bit different, and we may have some other opportunities available to us. Also, if there is other processing plants for disposal sites that come up around the district, that hopefully will make the prices more competitive, and it puts us in a better position financially. So we have given it that flexibility. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
We don't have any questions at the moment. Oh, Councillor Ball.
No, just a question. I'd like to move this. I've gone reading all of the reports, and I should obviously confirming that this is to do with the waste collection that we're doing, but to note that it is beneficial to the district in the sense that you've got a better contract as regards getting some money from it. Yes, we are looking into having to travel further afield to dispose of our waste, And it's a win-win situation, I would have thought, for the district itself, because we're keeping a business going. So I'm quite prepared to move this proposal, take note that they've won the contract, and let's hope it continues on.
Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, thank you, Jez. Looking for an explanation through a question. And I'm looking at paragraphs 2.6 and 3.2. We're told the new contract will be more financially advantageous. I'm intrigued to know what that means in plain English. And if it's financially advantageous, why is it only expected to result in cost savings? And what circumstances would it not result in savings?
Thank you, Chair. More financially advantageous means that the contract actually is, the new contract is better than the one that we have now. There is a reduction in costs to the authority over the period of the new contract in comparison to the contract that we have at present. In terms of the comment, which I think referred to 3.2, expected results in cost savings, as members are aware, we are looking to introduce chargeable garden waste services with the new contract. So until we're into that contract and we know what the uptake is, it's very difficult to say where we will be like for like in comparison, other than what we've got in terms of the rates for tonnage.
Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to second that and say a big well done to Ashley on his hard work.
Thank you. We have no other questions or comments. It has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Thank you for your attendance.
That's all right.